Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around, what I'm doing is showing you the movies that I've watched in the last month or so. It's a little bit more than a month, but a month or so that I haven't talked about on the channel. So I'm going to bring up the letterbox. I'm going to do that jazz, and we can have a chat about the movies I've watched and whether I recommend them or not. So I'm going to go over to my browser, and I'm going to bring up the letterbox. And I'm going to hit... I think it's Alt Z. No, it's Control Z. No, it's Alt Z. And I'm going to record the screen for you. Hopefully this isn't going to crash. If it does, I'll sort something out. But here we go. Recording has started. So there we are with the first movie that I watched, which I watched on YouTube because YouTube had it with ads. And I didn't mind the ads because I could, get up, scratch my bum, go and get a drink if I needed to. Beach Blanket Bingo, 1965, directed by William Asher, in the fourth of the highly successful Frankie and Annette Beach Party movies. A motorcycle gang led by Eric Von Zipper, the wonderful Harvey Lembeck, kidnaps singing star Sugar Cane, played by, oddly enough, Linda Evans, who later turned up in a whole bunch of other things. Bullets, her manager, who is played by Paul Lind, hires a skydiving team, blah, blah, blah. There's a mermaid played by Marta Kristen from Lost in Space, who falls in love with Bonehead, the tall geezer in the group, played by Jodie McCrea. Frankie and Annette are there, Deborah Wally, all the usual people in these William Asher beach party movies. And it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It really hit for me. Had a good time watching it. Next up, I watched, I thought I was on a roll, so I watched Muscle Beach Party with Frankie and Annette from 1964, again directed by William Asher, who later went on to direct and produce Bewitched with his wife Elizabeth Montgomery. Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello, Luciana Paluzzi playing a rich Italian woman who gets the hots for Frankie because Frankie's Italian. John Ashley's in there playing a different role. Jodie McCrea's in there as well. Peter Lupus from Mission Impossible, the TV series, is in there as well. Donna Loren. Dick Dale is doing the surf guitar shit in there. Local beachgoers find that the beach party's been taken over by a businessman training a stable of bodybuilders. Don Rickles runs the stable of bodybuilders, who are all thick as two planks. It's a little bit of a fun one. Not as good as some of the others. It doesn't quite have the riz of some of the others. And the tagline's pretty wild there. When 10,000 biceps go around 5,000 bikinis, you know what's going to happen. Do biceps wear bikinis? But again, it's a little bit of fun. Sometimes you just want a bit of froth and a bit of fun. Then I went to Cinemaniac's second last session for the year, and we saw the wonderful Massacre at Central High with Daryl Morey, Andrew Stevens, Robert Carradine's in there, Kimberly Beck. Maimed by bullies at a California high school, a new student engineers acts of revenge. And indeed he does. They've got Robert Carradine here, but the main guy is played by Daryl Morey, who's got a really creepy vibe. And in fact, there was a video of him talking to the group. I enjoyed this one. It's got just everything you need. It's got revenge. It's got blood and guts, gratuitous nudity, and sufficiency of that. So we watched that and enjoyed it. And then we watched The House on Sorority Row, directed by Mark Rosman, when the senior sorority sisters at Theta Pi decide to do in their demented house mother. Someone seeks revenge and begins a night of terror and madness. That's kind of sort of true. I enjoyed this one. Kind of early slasher movie, very 1980s. It does take a little while for the main plot to kick in and for things to develop, and they do a bit of character development for the female sorority sisters in that. The acting's not too bad. It does a really nice escalation at the end, so I really enjoyed it for that. And we all had a good time with that one. Then for some reason, I brought out my 4K, which I got crazy cheap, of Black Adam, starring Dwayne Johnson, Aldous Hodge, Noah Centineo, Sarah Shahi's in there as well, and a good role. Pierce Brosnan playing Dr. Fate. And the interesting thing about this, and I'm rewatching it, I realize this. Every other character is more interesting than Black Adam. All of the other superhero characters, Sarah Shahi playing a woman who is looking after her son. The guy playing her brother-in-law is a lot of fun. He's an electrician. Pierce Brosnan's fun playing Dr. Fate. If he came back into the DCU, I'd be fucked for that. but Dwayne Johnson trying to have a character arc. There's a void in his acting that I find really intriguing. And of course, there's a post-credit sequence where he meets Superman, not the David Cronenberg Superman, Henry Cavill. And that never came to anything. There was a post-credit sequence where Black Adam and Henry Cavill, Superman were going to go up against each other, but absolutely nothing happened with it. It was a vanity thing where Dwayne Johnson thought he was going to take over the DCU and be the swinging dick of the intellectual property. Didn't happen because the movie had Dwayne Johnson in it. So it was interesting just to reevaluate that and kind of bed down what I thought was wrong with it. Then I watched Beat Girl, which has got a fantastic soundtrack by John Barry. My mother was a stripper. I want to be a stripper too. Starring David Farrow, Noel Adam, Christopher Lee playing a nightclub guy, Gillian Hills, who later went on to have a bit of a musical career in France doing yeah songs. Shirley Ann Fields in there, Peter McHenry, Claire Gordon, Oliver Reed in a small role. One of these little kind of low-budget English crime dramas that just works because it's got that kind of 1960s English slap and tickle kind of sleaziness about it in black and white. No, it's recently got a Blu-ray release, and I find it kind of interesting, that one. It was a bit of fun, and seeing Christopher Lee playing a sleazy nightclub owner was a lot of fun. Then I watched Things to Come. I was going to do Things to Come for Science Fiction Saturday, but I found out I'd already done it after I rewatched it, because I've done next videos 200 Science Fiction Saturday videos, or 200 science fiction videos on the channel. It's easy to forget that you've already done something. So I watched it again, and I love the special effects. I like the Christmas. It's a Christmas movie too, because all the bombing that destroys civilization starts at Christmas time. And they have a big long montage of every town with Christmas turkeys in the windows and everyone getting gifts and literally chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And then civilization falls and these techno-fascists take over and all that stuff. Raymond Massey's in there, Ralph Richardson, Margaret Scott, Cedric Hardwick, Derek DeMane, and Todd. Terry Thomas is in there in a small role as well. So that was kind of interesting to be a part of and re-enjoy. Though the idea of a whole bunch of Western technocrats taking over the world from Basra is kind of a weird one. Then, of course, I watched Invisible Man, also known as Visible Avenger. And I've talked about that on the channel. I did it for Science Fiction Saturday. A really good hidden gem Japanese Invisible Man movie. Then for Sal's birthday, middle-aged good girl had her birthday. And we saw Wicked for Good at the cinema. And I'd never seen Wicked. So I did the précis of Wicked so I could get up to speed, and then we watched it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It was great, though I do think that Glinda and Elphaba should have got together, and this geezer over here should have been friend-zoned, because the riz between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo is much more between Cynthia Erivo's character and Jonathan Bailey's character. And we got Jeff Goldblum. Michelle Yeoh is woefully bad in this movie. She's like extra bad. And people are going, yes, she got the Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did she leave all of her riz in that movie? But I like the movie. There are some really fantastic sequences with Glinda where she's doing her song and talking. And the camera point of view moves through a series of mirrors in this great big palace she's living in. And the technology for moving the camera point of view through these mirrors is meticulously done. Cynthia Erivo is fantastic. This Ariana Grande is fantastic, though I still have problems with the uncanny valley aspects of the plastic surgery. But Cynthia Erivo is just terrific in this film. And you should check it out. I really should check out the first one too, I'm told. I haven't seen it, but that's how it is. Then I got out that Alan Ladd box set that I got when I was down in Maui. And I watched a movie called Calcutta, directed by John Farrow, the Australian director who was the father of Mia Farrow. And it's one of the standard adventures about guys flying over the hump between Chongqing and Calcutta. Neil and Pedro are the characters, played by William Bendix as Pedro, and Neil is played by Alan Ladd. They're flying between Chongqing and Calcutta. Their buddy Bill gets murdered and they investigate. There's smuggling involved. there's bad people. They actually have a bit of casting of the ethnicity involved in Paul Singh there. Ginger Prey from Thief of Baghdad's in there as well. And Gail Russell, who was in The Uninvited, is in there. I think they basically cast everyone because they're all as short as Alan Ladd. And they've got this character here who is played by a woman called Edith King. And basically Edith King's character in this movie, who runs all of the crime in Calcutta, is like a female of Sydney Greenstreet. She looks a little bit like Sydney Greenstreet. She was a stage actress and did very, very well. She has fantastic. I would watch a whole movie of her because she's fantastic playing the villain. Interesting having a Sydney Greenstreet type character played by a woman. That worked for me. And Alan Ladd's pretty good in it as well. It's a programmer from 1946, but it was entertaining while I was watching it. And if you haven't seen Calcutta, you might want to check that one out. Then after I watched Wake Up Dead Man, which I've talked about on the channel, I watched Nighthawks from 1981, where Sylvester Stallone was trying to shrug off Rocky and plays a cop who gets involved with a terrorist, played by Rutger Hauer. He's got a sidekick played by Billy Dee Williams. He's got a girlfriend played by Lindsay Wagner, and Lindsay Wagner and Sylvester Stallone have absolutely no chemistry. But the action sequences work well. And Rutger Hauer's terrorist is fantastic. Persis Kambata's in it as well. Nigel Davenport. So they've got good character actors in this secondary roles. And they've also got Jamie Gillis here, who was known for being an adult film actor, playing a fashion designer in a non-naughty role. I mean, that's kind of consistent because you've got to remember, Sylvester Stallone's first movie was A Party at Kitty and Studs, where he was in a porn movie as his first movie in 1970. So 11 years later, he gets Jamie Gillis to play a small role in his film. But Stallone started out getting his dick and his bum out in an adult film, and people forget that. Then I watched a really interesting Arabian Nights kind of movie from 1954 called The Adventures of Hajji Baba, played by John Derek. In Isfahan, Persia, Hajji Baba leaves his father's shop to seek greater fortune, while the Princess Fawzia, played by Elaine Stewart, who's great in this movie, is trying to talk her father, the Caliph, into giving her to marry to Nur al-Din, a rival Princess Omfara's wife, as mean and fickle. Her father intends for Fawzia to marry a friend and ally and makes plans to send him. But it's got a good supporting cast in there as well. You've got Thomas Gomez, Amanda Blake, who later turned up in Gunsmoke for a very long time. Claude Akins is in there as well. Booth Coleman, a whole bunch of these character actors we know. And the cool thing about it is there's a theme song sung by Nat King Cole. And the motif from the theme song keeps repeating every time John Derek turns up on the screen. So it's kind of fun watching that. And you can do a drinking competition where every time Nat King Cole sings about Hajji Baba, you can take a drink and be very drunk by the end of it. But I like it. I've got a soft spot for these Arabian Nights kind of movies. Then I watched Flight to Mars, but I've talked about that on the channel. Then I watched two late era Hitchcock movies. The first one I watched was Topaz from 1969. It's set in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and is a French secret agent played by Frederick Stafford, who gets involved with American intelligence about Cuba, and he's got an in to Cuba being undercover. His knock is that he's a trade guy, and so he gets involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis and the bombs and missiles going to Cuba. He's got a Geiger counter. He's married to a woman played by Danny Robert, but he's also having an affair off and on with Karen Dorr's character, who is a Cuban person. And John Vernon plays Rico Parra, the Cuban guy who's very close to Castro. And it's got a few different parts. There's a bit where Frederick Stafford's character and John Forsythe's character start talking about the threat of missiles going to Cuba. And so the first part is him being recruited kind of by the Americans, him later finding out that there are Russian moles in the French government. That's where Michel Piccoli and Philippe Noiret come into it. It's kind of like two or three phases, this movie. There's the first phase where he gets recruited, the second phase where he goes to Cuba and basically gets out by the skin of his teeth. And the third phase is him trying to find out who the Topaz Russian sleeper agents in France are. And meanwhile, he and his wife get estranged because he's having an affair with a Cuban chick. All sorts of interesting stuff there. It doesn't quite hold together, but were it made by anybody but Alfred Hitchcock, I think it would have been a lot better regarded. Then I watched Torn Curtain, Alfred Hitchcock, 1966, with a miscast Julie Andrews, Paul Newman playing physicists, and Paul Newman's character defects to Russia because he wants to find out the secret to a certain kind of weapon, which a guy working for the Soviet Union has. His girlfriend, or fiancée, played by Julie Andrews, follows him because she's stupid. They get involved in Cold War shenanigans in Russia. Lila Kedrova is very good, playing a woman who helps them out. Tamara Tomova plays a Russian ballerina. Wolfgang Keeling plays a guy called Gromik, who's assigned to look after Paul Newman's character, whose name is Michael Armstrong. See, they've got the generic character names of this. And Wolfgang Keeling, the actor, was working in Los Angeles and saw the watch riots and immediately defected to East Berlin in real life. And there's a great sequence of scenes where Gromik finds out that Paul Newman's not what he says he is when they're out in a country farm. And Newman, along with a woman who lives in a cottage, kills Gromik. And the point of that scene for Hitchcock was he wanted to show how hard it is to actually kill a person. And it's a fun, fantastic suspense sequence of them trying different ways to kill Gromik. They stab him, the knife breaks off at him, but it doesn't kill him straight away. They try to beat him around the head. They stick his head in a gas oven finally and kill him, but it takes a long time. And the psychological and emotional impact of killing someone really hits for the characters, particularly Paul Newman's character. I kind of like this one. I don't think it's really great, Hitchcock. And I think Julie Andrews is crazily miscast in this. Locations are great. The movie itself is fine. And Newman is pretty good as well. So I enjoyed that. Then I did I Hate My Body, which I talked about earlier. And then we went to the Christmas showing at Cinemaniacs at the Astor. And we watched Frankenhooker, because why the hell not? Frank Henenlotter's Frankenhooker. James Lewis plays a mad guy called Jeffrey. Paddy Mullen plays his girlfriend who gets chopped up by a lawnmower, and he saves her head and wants to get a new body for it. Interesting thing is that his mother is played by Louise Lacer, who's in Mary Hartman on TV, and was also at one stage married to Woody Allen. It's got that sleazy Times Square, New York feel about it. They shot a lot of a guerrilla in Times Square, as you can see here. Paddy Mullen is very good playing the resurrected Elizabeth, because her name's Elizabeth Shelley, and also the pre-resurrection Elizabeth. Lots of other small actors in there. Shirley Stoller from The Honeymoon Killers is in this as Spike the bartender, by the way. And we all had a good time watching that. A lot of the people who were there at the showing hadn't seen it before. I'd seen it a few times. But I sat down with Julian from Collective Creations channel, and we had a good time with that. And then afterwards, we went and did the raffle. I didn't win anything at the raffle, but I was in the Kris Kringle where we all put presents on the table, pull out numbers, and in the number order, you get to pick present. I got number 1, and I picked out the present, and I got brownies. I got a Nightmare Before Christmas thing, which I gave to Sal, and I got a bottle of Prosecco, which I'm saving for the New Year's Eve live stream on the channel. So look forward to that. Love Frankenhooker, Frank Henenlotter. I mean, the first 2 Basket Case movies are fantastic. Frankenhooker's fantastic. See, a terrifying tale of sluts and bolts. You got to go with a tagline like that. Really enjoyed it. Saw what's coming up Cinemaniacs next year, and they're doing some really good stuff there, and I'll talk about that when I watch those movies. But we had a good night there and really enjoyed it. Everybody wished each other a Merry Christmas. And then I watched a movie I'm not going to recommend called The Hyperions from 2022. In 1960, Professor Ruckus Mandelbaum invents a Titan badge, a device that enables humans to have particular superpowers. He took in 3 orphans, basically, creating an unusual family of superheroes. Over time, however, the commercial family fractured and the professor replaced the team with new sets of superhero teams. Cut to 1979, when 2 of the original superheroes were all grown up and they want their badges back. It's got Carrie Elwes in it. Nobody else really big. Penelope Mitchell was in there playing. She's an Australian actress playing one of the rejected ex-superheroes. So I watched this, and the arc of the movie felt off. Mandelbaum's an abusive father to all of these superhero kids. He's a real prick. But the movie arc gave him a redemption arc that was incredibly unearned. And then I found out the movie was made by the Daily Wire people, the right-wing nutjobs from the Daily Wire, as a way of secretly forwarding their agenda where father figures are always right and people who protest against abuse by father figures are always wrong. And I hated the movie from then on. I knew it was off. I knew it was a shit movie. But I actively hated the movie after that because it was pure right-wing propaganda. It was on Amazon and they didn't flag it. They should have a flag saying right-wing nutjob content. It's fairly low budget. There are aspects of it that would have been better with a script that wasn't basically a fap job by Trumpistas. And I hated that movie, and I still hate that movie, and I will hate that movie forever. Then I watched, at the recommendation of someone on the live stream, Paul Bartel's Private Parts from 1972, about a young girl called Cheryl who goes to live with her aunt in a sleazy private hotel in Los Angeles. There are weird people living in the hotel. There's a guy who pretends to be a priest but is probably a pedophile, played by an Australian actor, Laurie Mann. Stars Ang Ruben as Cheryl. Lucille Benson, who was a character actress of a certain age, a southern character actress, who's really good in her role. John Ventantonio playing Lucille Benson's character's son, whose name is George. Lucille Benson plays Aunt Martha. Stanley Livingston from My Three Sons is in there. Paul Bartel in a small role. But it's kind of a cross between Psycho and I Hate My Body. And there's somebody murdering all the people in the hotel. And Cheryl eventually finds out why. It's got a crazy ending to it. Sleazy low budget stuff. Well directed by Paul Bartel. And there's some severely kinky and sick shit that goes on in this movie. And I recommend you see it. It's a sick little 1970s movie. Fantastic beat picture. I would have loved to have seen this in 1972. This would have been my jam when I was going to the cinema as often as I could when I was a teenager. And I still like it. It's a nice discovery. And whoever on the live stream recommended this film, thank you very much. Then what did I watch next? George Formby in No Limit, where George plays a guy called George Shuttleworth, who wants to win the Isle of Man motorcycle races. And he lives in Wigan. He's got bugger all money. He borrows 10, 15 quid from his mum, goes to the Isle of Man for the race, and basically does well. And this is like the innocent doing well, going up against all of the posh people. Directed by Monty Banks. I like George Formby movies. They're comfort films for me. My grandparents were incredible George Formby fans. They immigrated in 1928 from York in Yorkshire. And they watched George Formby movies at the cinema every time they came out, and they loved it, and I've kind of inherited that. But I enjoyed No Limits. It's not my favourite George Formby movie. It's in the air is probably the favourite I got, but there are any number of them. Once you kind of get used to George Formby, you might well like him. Middle-aged girl, I sat down and watched K-pop Demon Hunters. They sing, they dance, they battle demons. Animated movie. I had a good time with this. I liked this. Sal already knew the songs and she annoyed me by singing them during the movie. There you go. When K-pop superstars Rumi, Mira and Zoey aren't selling out stadiums, they're using their secret powers to protect their fans from supernatural threats, basically demons. Got a lot of Korean culture, South Korean culture. Fantastic animation, fantastic art direction. The story grips me. It was good. And they got Lee Byung-hun playing the evil guy. Jenya Day Kim's in there as well. I don't know the other actresses, but I can see why it's viral. It's a lot of fun, K-pop Demon Hunters. And if you're kind of on the fence about watching it, sit down, have a bevy, and give it a go. And the last thing I watched, which I watched today, were the 4 episodes of Eyes of Wakanda, which is stories about the war dogs of Wakanda, the people who protect Wakanda through history, and also grab vibranium artifacts that get into the hands of anybody outside. The first episode starts in ancient Crete. There's one that starts during the Trojan War. There's another one in China in the 1400s. And there's one that's set in 1898. Really good individual stories, and together they form an arcing narrative. Fantastic animation, fantastic design, great voice acting. Well, the writer for 2 of these episodes was Mark Bernard, who I really like as a writer and also as a critic of film and television. Really enjoyed these. Binged them all today. Different characters through each individual story. But being a Marvel completist, I watched it. Now, I recommend Eyes of Wakanda. It's got Afrofuturism in a historical context. And I really dug that. And it kind of shows the evolution of the Wakandan war dogs, who are basically the secret service of Wakanda. It just worked really well. Enjoyed it a lot. I don't know why it's not better promoted among Marvel fans, because this one really hit. So I'm going to close down my screen sharing now and just end this video. Yeah, I enjoyed all these. Had a pretty good month. Got to 2 Cinemaniacs sessions. Saw some interesting things I was unaware of before. Just had a good time with it. There were a couple of things that didn't land for me for obvious reasons. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the movies I watched over the last month and a bit. For those of you who knew, there was a family funeral yesterday for us. Our niece Steph was interred, and we had the service, and then we had the graveside thing, and I was one of the pallbearers. Thanks to everybody that gave Sal and I support on that and good wishes. It was a hard day. It was a good day though, because everybody held space for each other. The family and extended family, to a certain extent, really supported everybody. Given how tragic it was, it couldn't have gone better. So that's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. All the usual stuff. Subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Let me know what you think of the movies that I watched. You can also, of course, support the channel by donating at patreon.com/cherrytalksmovies, becoming a channel member, or by donating at through YouTube. You can also give the video a thumbs up, hit the notification bell so you know when new stuff comes out. All of that jazz. Next up, I've got Science Fiction Saturday. I don't know what I'm doing for that. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to find at least 2 movies that I can highly recommend for that one. So until all of that happens, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Watch out for movies that are politically motivated but never tell you they are. And I'll catch you next time.